r/MaliciousCompliance. Screw your HOA and its ridiculous rules. Back in high school, I was all about my car. Don't get me wrong, it was a rolling POS, but it was my car. It had a trade-in value of maybe $5, but it was my car. I was learning how to take care of it, by which I mean I found where the dipstick was and how to pull it. I hadn't yet moved on to tire inflation. One step at a time. One day after school I drove over to my friend's place. We jumped out, popped the hood, pulled the dipstick, checked the oil and it was fine, so put the hood back down. I had no idea what an HOA was nor what it meant. I was just a happy ignorant teenager eager to demonstrate how responsible I was with my wheels. A few days go by and we're hanging out at my friend's place when his mom comes home. She starts giving us the business in that I'm annoyed but trying not to be voice about a warning she received from the HOA regarding repairing cars in your driveway, complete with a photo of my POS with the hood up. Really, she was being pretty good, though clearly annoyed. We explained that we weren't repairing anything, that I was just checking the oil level, and didn't even need any tools. Picture just had the hood up. She softened quite a bit, and the focus of her annoyance shifted from us to the HOA, since it's entirely reasonable for anyone to check the level of oil in a car. She finds her copy of the HOA rules and we all read them together. Sure enough, there's a bylaw that says you can't repair a car in the driveway. I protest that I wasn't repairing anything, I was just checking the oil. Reading the exact rules on exactly what was forbidden sparked an idea. I look at my friend, raise an eyebrow, and say, "Fight the power." Fight the power? I propose my plan to his mom and ask for permission since she's going to have to deal with the fallout. She's on board since she thinks this is supremely stupid, and we set in motion. Cue the MC. Every day after school my friend and I drove our POS machines to his place, parked in their driveway, raised the hoods, and just looked at the engines. No tools, we weren't even near them. We didn't check the oil, we didn't so much as touch them nor wipe them down with a rag. All we did was expose them to the birds, the sky, and God above to just let them breathe. After a while I got bored, so I started setting up an easel and drawing my engine 10 minutes at a time. My friend had to one-up me, so decided he needed some tasteful artistic photos with his engine. He judged the best photos would be him laying over the engine shirtless, stroking and fake kissing it. Just absurd, over-the-top moronic high schooler stuff. Predictably the HOA was on us like stink on shit. The warnings quickly turned into fines, complete with pictures of both vehicles with their hoods up. Then more pictures with mine with its hood up and an easel in front. Then even more pictures with my friend's with its hood up, him laying in the engine compartment and me taking pictures of him with a camera. Soon enough his mom let us know it was time for the monthly HOA meeting. Of course all three of us had to go in person to protest the fines. So the motley pair of us show up along with his mom, and his mom's stack of fine notices. I bring along my engine drawing, and we printed some of my friend's boudoir engine photos larger than normal. After a while it was new business time, and my friend's mom steps up. I'm pretty sure they expected her to play the "my son and his friend are morons, please make these fines go away since I didn't know what they were doing" sympathy card. Nope, not a chance. She politely but firmly attested that she was being sent fines for something that wasn't in the bylaws, and asked the board to stop. One of the board members spoke up saying that working on cars was against the bylaws, and clearly that's what was going on since both hoods were up. Oh, you should have seen their faces when she corrected them that the bylaw said no repairs were allowed, that there were no repairs going on in any of the pictures since no tools were visible, and that we were just doing art projects for school. Even longer faces were seen when she showed my, truthfully completely terrible, drawing of my engine, along with the date stamped a couple weeks ago pictures. This was back when film cameras stamped a date directly on the picture, of my friend trying to seduce his engine. The HOA president called for a 5-minute recess, during which the board huddled in a corner of the room. After the recess, the president succinctly said, we are going to dismiss all your fines. Have a nice evening. We damn near danced out of that meeting. Being the obnoxious shitheads that my friend and I were, we had to do the drawing/photo routine a few more times just to make sure they weren't going to start sending more fines. They wisely didn't, and being victorious we soon found other ways to annoy them. TLDR, HOA forbids repairing your car in your driveway. Friend and I decided to draw my engine and take photos of my friend on top of his instead. No money back. We'll see about that. I'm not 100% certain this is an MC, but I'll let you be the judge. TLDR at the end. A few years ago when my kids were 3 and 7, we were looking for a new car for my wife. After scouring Auto Trader, we are in the UK, we saw a Mazda Z06, decent mileage, couple of owners, in a small traders down south. It was about an hour away, so we hopped in my car and went to look at it. We arrived at the site, which had some decent looking cars, and it was a nice and tidy place, so didn't ring any alarm bells. We were greeted by one of 2 Romanian brothers who seemed knowledgeable, and pretty free of the hard sell. I had a look round the car, very little rust, oil looked clean, tidy inside. With not too much wear, the only 2 things I found was the head unit panel was not in place correctly, and one of the brackets by the engine had a bit of a dent in it, but it was a non-functional bracket and it didn't appear to have a prang, so okay. Took it for a test drive and it was okay. My wife liked it, so we paid part cash, part card. A few days later, after sorting the insurance, we went and collected it. By the time we got home, my wife got out and immediately said, "There's something wrong with this car." I took it for a drive, and yes, it had low power, sounded terrible and didn't feel safe. I immediately rang them and they were pleasant enough, and said bring it back and they would have their garage look at it, the same garage that had MOT'd it barely 2 weeks earlier. I said I didn't want to bring it back and would pay out of my pocket to get it assessed by my garage. They didn't like this, but I didn't give them a choice. After a couple of days of being at my local garage, who we have used for years and trust, even though they are a bit pricey, we got the report. It ran to 2 pages, which I will summarize using the comment the mechanic gave us when we picked it up. Mechanically, this is the worst car I have ever seen. How it passed an MOT is beyond me. You wouldn't have seen it on a visual inspection, but this is a nail. Oh dear. So I rang the dealer and sent them the report. Again pleasant enough, said bring it back and we can discuss it, and sort out the refund. Cue the MC. So the following Saturday, now 1.5 weeks since we bought it, we all trooped back down there, and walked into their little Porto cabin office. The 2 brothers were sat there with faces like slapped arses. "I will tell you now, sir, you will not be getting a refund today, not until our garage has checked it." My wife and I looked at each other and our hearts sank. What followed was an hour of back and forth, with me explaining that we were within our rights to a full refund within 30 days of purchase. Now this is true for goods in the UK, but I had no idea if this applied to vehicles. After an hour my wife and I stepped outside. The kids were getting bored and fractious. "What are we going to do?" says my wife. "Well, I'm not leaving without a refund," I said. "Agreed." And that was it. We went back into that office, we argued back and forth, revisited the same point over and over while the kids moaned, cried, begged to leave. But we sat there, and we argued, very calmly, very matter-of-factly, without getting angry or raising our voices. At a couple of points, one brother left to serve people who had walked into the yard, and at one point he came in with another couple who were interested in a car. They heard us talking. I slyly shook my head at the couple, and they backtracked and left. One of the brothers was raging behind his eyes. They threatened to call the police. I begged them to do it so we could clear this up and leave. They didn't. After, and I am not exaggerating, 5 hours of this, my wife and I stepped out and were stood just outside the office door. "Look, we can't stay here my longer," the kids are hungry and tired and mental. My wife says. I saw the door open barely an inch. Okay, take my car and go and feed them. I'm not leaving. I think I'll just call the police and get this sorted, but if I have to stay here until tomorrow morning we are getting our money back. I said. I noticed the door close again. Really? She said. Just give it a minute, let's go back in a sec. Okay, she says, looking irritated. We go back in and one brother is counting out cash on the table. At this point it's early evening. Sir, the deal we will do is, we will give you a full refund, if you don't mention this car on any review site. It was X in cash and X on a card, yes. Less than 5 minutes later we were back in our car leaving the nail behind, cash in hand and card refunded. We had found a pub that does food and were heading there rapidly. The kids were okay now, they knew food was near. With everything sorted, my wife and I looked at each other for a second and cheered, whooped, hollered, banged the steering wheel, making the little lad cry, bless him. We could not believe that after 5 hours of back and forth, crying kids, belligerent salesmen, we had won. We had flipping well won. This sort of thing never happened to us, and yet there we were. We felt like the kings of the world and no one would ever mess with us. TLDR, buy a nail of a car, invited to take it back for a refund, no refund offered. We stay for 5 hours scaring other customers away until we walk out with a refund in full.